everyone. Welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and another episode of the Indie Show. Tonight we are wrapping up The Wicked and the Divine, and I have my crew with me as always for this series. We got Gorilla Todd. What's going on, Todd?
What's up, JP, man? Good to be here with you again for the wrap up on The Wicked and the Divine. It's been a fun read.
It has been a fun read. I have enjoyed it. We got the unruly Simeon, who was the man who pushed me to read this. So,
what's up, y'all?
And finally, we got Los. What's happening, Los?
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Good to be here, man. Yeah, like Todd said, man, I'm getting ready to wrap this thing up, man. Should be interesting.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what you guys thought. I will say we are talking volumes 8 and 9 tonight, but really, we're probably mostly going to talk 9 because that was interesting. I did not know that, but volume 8 is kind of side stories and like all their little side stories they did throughout the series, Christmas specials, a little comedy special thing. So you don't actually need volume 8, at least in terms of to understand the main story. So there's some fun stuff. So we're actually gonna start with volume 9. I think we want to talk about the wrap up of the series first, and then if we have anything we want to add with this stuff, we'll go there. So let's just get to it. We're full spoilers on the show.
Yeah.
Do they stick the landing? Los, I want to start with you.
I think it was a little rough landing. I think it could have been better. I know we kind of spoke a little bit before backstage, and I think some of my counterparts kind of nailed it a little bit with the kind of like the cop out of the jump ahead kind of deal to wrap it up. Maybe they could have flushed it out a little more. Just even with one extra like issue or something like that. Kind of going through the years as like some of the earlier issues, right? Where we read where they were kind of doing the years where she was like kind of developing herself and her skills, right, on killing all the children throughout the years. It's like, okay, in 890 AD, I did this, and then this, and then every 90 years they showed her doing something else. They could have, they only jumped 40 years, so you could have easily said, this was 10 years, this was whatever, or this is, they went to prison or whatever it was and stuff like that. They served their time and now they're out, or, but you could have at least made one issue where you could have like jumped, gave those years in between and then did the finale. But, maybe there was a time crunch or maybe there was something there, who knows, based on what the writers and stuff had in mind. But I feel like that was the only part that they kind of left out. Other than that, I mean, I thought it was okay. Ending the build up was definitely better than the conclusion, but it wasn't terrible. I'll give it that much. It wasn't terrible. I mean, like I said, the build up was definitely really there, and like it drew you in, and then it was just like, okay. It was like,
I disagree with some of what you said, but agree with some of it too. So yeah, I'll get to my opinion in a minute. Unruly, you were commenting in the chat, so we'll let you comment on here. What did you think? Did they stick the landing?
See, I don't so much mind that the jump into the future. One of my all-time favorite TV shows, Justified, does the same thing in the last episode. It bounces forward about 5, 6, 7 years, and you get to see the aftermath and ramifications of the last arc. I enjoyed it, and I loved that our girl was the one that broke the cycle. She was the protagonist for a reason.
Yep.
No. Todd, what about you? What did it stick the landing for you?
I didn't love the ending, and I enjoyed the series. I definitely overall would give the series like it's a good read, and I'd recommend it. I don't know if maybe trying to get through, what was the last one's 9? I guess trying to get through 8 before I read 9.
Yeah, you probably should have just read 9 and then back to 8.
That might have just put a bad. Just felt like it felt very disjointed.
Yeah,
and then I was finally like, okay, I recognize the art. I'm back to my I get this. Okay, this is the story I've been reading.
Yeah, I feel like they that's a mistake in how they release the volumes. I think this should have been like volume 9 or bonus, or it shouldn't have been a numbered volume in between. Like it should have been like,
maybe like a compendium or an
Or they could have
addendum.
just put it in the regular stuff in the same order it was published in. So it's
Yeah.
not jarring
if they'd have
all
just
at once.
slipped it in one issue at a time or something. Yeah, but I would agree that like this, because I started to read this and I was like, what the heck? And then I like started, then I looked, then I realized I found the page at the front telling you what this was. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to read 9 and then I'll come back to this.
Yeah.
And that, I think that would have made a difference because 8, it's really, there's a lot of crap in there.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, and it's none of it really has anything to do directly with the main story. So, okay, what, anything else you got just about the ending? You think, Todd?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not usually a big fan of the time jumps. It's a couple things I've liked it when they've done that, but I just would have liked it. I felt like the buildup was so good and the climax was so good that it felt like they could have, I don't know, it could have been tighter.
Yeah. So for me, like I will say, up till the time jump, I really enjoyed the ending. I like that it was because they had all these ridiculous powers and all this stuff, and I like that like the way to break the cycle was to say to give it up. Like I like how simple the actual resolution was. Hard, like to do that, to have that, and then to just walk away from it. Like, but I really enjoyed that part. I will say I'm not a huge fan. I think time jumps are really hard to pull off, generally. Like when you do that little thing at the end, I think they can be important. They can be useful. I felt like this one was just kind of a little cliche. The time jump part, like I would overall. I really enjoyed this. I would recommend it, highly recommend it to everybody. But I would say it's really like I felt like they stuck the part through up until the time jump, and then it was like, But that's just me.
Yeah.
So
well,
I
think
feel
about
really
it
good
like
too.
this: how many movies have you seen where before the end credits start, they show you a little paragraph and a picture of what happened to that character after.
Yeah.
The film? Just think about it like that.
Yeah. And I so that's why it doesn't ruin the series for me. I just didn't think that was as well executed as the rest of it. And I admit that I think it's really hard to execute. Like just the nature of one of those time jump kind of things, I think it's really hard to execute.
I think it would, like you said, it doesn't. The ultimate ending doesn't take away from the entire series, right? The entire series, I think, was excellent. It drew you in, and I do. To Unruly's point, I do like the fact that Laura was the one to come up with the idea on how to break the cycle, right? Because she was the one that really craved this power and this attention. And, from the very beginning, she's like, I want that. I want it. And for her to be the one to actually snap out of it, and it was just like, yeah, I'm done with this shit. And all of a sudden she's like, yeah, it took a long time for me to figure out how to use just enough of a miracle to kind of get by. But, to ultimately just say, you know what, I'm done. I'm walking away from this. And for her to come back and be like, hey, I have a plan, right? I mean, this is what I've been working on this entire time that I was basically gone. And for her to do that and to get everybody on board with it, which is obviously really tough because, again, everybody wanted that power. And it kind of woke everybody up like, oh, shit, yeah, you're right. It's like, no, yeah, you wanted this. You believed in it, right? It was that when I was thinking about it, it was that Peter Pan effect, right? If you believe in it enough, right, it's true, right? And it's you go to the Lost Boys and all those shit, and you go to Neverland, you believe in it so much that you can fly and you can do this or whatever. And that's what they did is it was a story that they believed in so much that it came true.
Yeah. Because they were special. They just weren't they had latent ability. They just weren't God. They were basically by being godlike, they were just burning it up. I mean, they were burning themselves up, and I thought that was a very.
That's why you only lasted 2 years.
Yeah, it's why they only lasted 2 years. You know, they were when they used their full they used the full end, they just burned themselves out, and I thought it was a really interesting way to wrap. And a really interesting solution to what was happening. So, what do you think about that part of the ending? And really, how they defeat or end the cycle necessarily? Because they technically don't end the cycle, because it says when they're gone, 12 more will come, but they won't.
Well, it wasn't so much that they burnt themselves out within 2 years. That was Anake manipulating the cycle every time, remember?
Yes, that was her manipulating the cycle. Yeah.
Why is she doing this? Because the old bitch is afraid to die.
Yeah.
You know? But no, I think, hang on, what is it Laura says at the funeral when she addresses the when what she's telling the reader is the future is yours, man.
Yeah.
You get to write it yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't listen to the writer. They're telling you their perspective is make your own future, right? You know, the future is what you make of it, not what you're reading on somebody else's end. And she's like, yeah, I mean, it's up to you, right? You know, you can either you know, be great for a short amount of time and just fade out, or you can learn over a long period of time and, you know, better yourself before the end. So it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of they were taking Aniki was tricking them into taking the shortcut.
Yep.
Instead of to being able to do great things, instead of putting in the work to do great things. And they were so capable of doing great things, as it showed, as you could see by what their lives. And I felt like they didn't do a good enough job. That's the part I felt like they didn't do a good enough job of showing, was what they actually accomplished.
Yeah.
With the life that they had, they didn't do a good enough job. I felt like it was too much just a funeral and not enough of this is what they accomplished.
I'll even be honest, and maybe this is just me being slow in reading it. I'm not even sure who all those characters were. It took me about 7 volumes to remember everybody's name and get it straight in my head. And then they jump however many years, and now everybody has a different name. And they look
because they were using their real names.
Their real names.
I got that, but it was like, do I want to go back and look them up and figure out who's who now?
And some you got to remember, some of the people were the headless people that came back and got bodies. So you're like, hey, I haven't seen this.
Another question I had was, why did Lucifer's hair turn red? Was there a reason for that, or was that just random?
That's a good question. I wondered about that too. I think it was just an art choice, but or that maybe she could do that on her own. I don't know. That was
but for I don't know. I know there are weird things to
I mean, they took over one of the Morgan. Well, they all took over one of the Morgan's bodies.
Yeah,
and she was a girl. All 3 of those were female bodies, and 2 of the male bodies came back as male bodies. So it was really weird.
Yeah.
I just assumed she got the body that had the red hair. I don't know. It was yeah, but that was kind of weird. That it was kind of odd that her hair just changed.
Yeah. And actually, JP, we were talking about being able to see what their actual lives were, right? What they were able to do, and they in the funeral when Cassandra came back and kind of gave her own eulogy, you know, she mentioned that John, right, the real Wooten, actually did great things, right? Like he was a genius level kid before his dad, you know, kind of, you know, killed him, whatever, you know, cut his head off and stuff. And so obviously he was a genius, right? And he grew to be, you know, this great inventor or whatever. Like he did amazing things. What were those amazing things? Like, what did he, you know, contribute to society? Because obviously he did contribute a lot to society. And it would have been nice to see that, you know, and even if it was just, you know, 1 panel, 2 panels, whatever, just something. Give me something that he did, you know.
I think it's like it
created.
Could have been a more entertaining way to communicate those last few ideas
Yeah.
than maybe just a funeral and a eulogy. I don't know.
Yeah, or I mean, again, we don't. I mean, I don't know. You know what the writers and like the artists or the what they gave them as a timeline, right? It's like, hey, you
Yeah,
have
sure.
many issues or whatever, so they try to wrap it up how they could, or it's one of those things where they were like, hey, we're gonna leave that chunk of time to the imagination of the reader, right? And it's like you just imagine what they did in that time,
What they were able to
maybe, you know what I mean? I don't know, but
I feel like that the goal there was to like imply that they did great things, like or did important things, but not have to go into detail.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a leave it up to the reader.
Yep.
And that's fine. I don't need a list of like everything they accomplished, but I do feel like we needed just a little more. Like for me, like
I would have just like had seen one of the things that they've accomplished or something like that, just because we knew they were capable of great things, and they did do great things because they were given that opportunity and that time. Well, they chose that time and to put in the hard work and stuff.
I figured
it would have been nice to see that.
I figured they just got out of jail the day before the funeral.
well, listen. Here's my take on it, and Todd, I'm with you. There's a shitload of characters and a bunch of different relationships between the characters and their god names and their real names, and who were they in the last occurrence and before that and blah blah. Have you ever read the Russian writers like Dostoevsky or Tolstoy?
No.
It's the same thing. There's huge casts, and not only that, but every single character has a different nickname for every other character, and you got to read every book twice before you can get a handle on who's who. And I'm not Wile E. Coyote super genius. You know what I'm saying? I got to work for this shit.
Yeah.
But I like that, man. I like that this wasn't spelled out for us. That they trust us to have enough smarts to figure it out.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, first started reading comics in the 70s, what I hated worse than anything on earth was how they always took 1, 2, or 3 pages to catch the reader up on what had happened in the previous 3 or 4 or 12 issues. I'm like, motherfucker, I buy this every week. I know what's going on.
Well, you're getting cheated out of 3 pages.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this. They trust the reader enough not to have to recap anything ever. I love that in comics.
I would agree with you. My just thing is like when it gets to the point where I have like 20 pages left, I don't know if I have enough desire to go back and reread it. I don't know if this is going to be a multiple read for me.
Yeah.
I can't say for sure or not right now. I may come a day where I look and say, hey, let me give this another look.
Yeah.
If nothing else, because I've read it 3 times now, the art, it just keeps blowing me away.
Oh, the art continued to be just like, I mean,
it got better and better as the series progressed. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
The art was phenomenal.
It definitely it fit the storytelling, right? Because there was
I love that page.
Yeah. There was times where there was minimal speech, but you can see it on the art. You can see the facial expressions and stuff like that. So it didn't need words. You just looked and it's like, okay, you know what they were expressing there. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, with the 3 girls.
The art was absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, I really think, like I said, I really think for the most part they stuck the landing. The last issue with the time jump, I felt was a little uneven. But overall, so let's get to the defeat. Like we talked about it briefly, but what did you guys like? I didn't really get your opinion on. What did you think of the way they defeated her or broke the cycle? Was just like giving it up. What did you think about that being the solution? Todd, what did you think about that being the solution?
I was fine with that. I mean, it's one of those situations, honestly, in storytelling where a lot of times the that the simple solution works and makes sense, and you don't. And I think actually it's good that they didn't try to like not make it some overcomplicated like mechanism or what have you. Just that it was as simple as, it really came down to the individual, and because I think it's a story that's a lot at its core is about individual choice and about the choices you make as a person and where they lead you. So for it to come down to the big the solution to this problem, that's this plague that's been going on for eons, where Anarchy is manipulating and cajoling and whatnot, for them to just to be as simple as making a conscious decision to say, I'm not a god, I'm just a person, and releasing them of that kind of 2 years, you get all the power you want, but 2 years you die.
Yeah.
So,
I think that I thought it was really well done. I thought it was well set up that was the solution. And it come down to the 8 of them that were left going, no, we're good. We're just going to be people. We're going to go back to being Laura. We're going to go back to being Cassandra. We're going to go back, And I thought that was an excellent solution. And really, you didn't say anything yet.
Yeah, well, it was set up by, Anaki's sister set those wheels in motion during the first iteration.
Yeah.
When they did, as whatever civilization they were from originally, when they discovered, hey, we've got this little spark. So overall, I liked it. I like when stuff is foreshadowed like that. And like Todd said, the simplicity of it, I dig that. I don't like super complicated, crap that comes out of left field, and I don't like, the Deus Ex Machina finale where it was Captain Marvel came to save the day when everything looked bleak.
Yeah.
This is perfectly done to me.
Yeah.
You can even like. I get the time jump in the sense of it starts out in the past and then jumps into the present, and then the bulk of it's in the present, and then at the end it's like an Oreo almost. You have your end, your bookcases, your ends. I just think that jump could have been more exciting or more. I don't know. It left me a little bit feeling less than fulfilled.
I get that. But that they're like figuring out, or Laura pretty much figuring out how to defeat her and stuff like that. And it came to that opportunity where it's like, okay, you have Minerva, right, who's a kind of like this break off of Anarchy. Whenever Anarchy dies, she creates like Minerva. It was something weird, like where they said like she creates this extra being that doesn't really fully have all the memories, but then once Anarchy dies, like all the memories go to her, and then
they split basically.
Yeah, they like split off or something like that. The cool thing is that she, even when Laura's trying to tell like, hey, you need to sing so you can kind of remember, or and she couldn't do it, right? She's like, yeah, I've been doing this so long, I'm over 6,000 years old, I don't even know how to do this anymore, right? It's been so crazy. And Laura was the one who was like, hey, you know what? Give me your hands. I'm going to help you remember this. And she kind of like brought her back and snapped her back into it. And she was like, holy shit, like I missed that. Like it was so long ago that I don't even remember that time and how they first started. So I kind of like how it kind of snapped her back, and, she ultimately felt like that rush of remorse kind of deal. Like, Jesus, I've been doing this so long and I'm just so tired, right? Like, immortality is sometimes not what it's all cracked up to be, right? And she kind of like felt that like, geez, everybody I've known, everybody I've killed, and it's just like, for what? For me to not go back into that darkness that I did for 90 years. And she's like, I don't want to do that again. And when you had Enya was like, I was brain dead. I was dead. And he was like, it's nothing. Like, you just,
Dionysus. Yeah.
Let it go. Like, hey, man, it's life, right? I mean, this is part of it. You beat it for so long, but that's it. And, I like that it was just that simple, like, hey, snap out. Like, this is it, man. You know what I mean? Like, this is life. Like, yeah, you beat it for 6,000 years, but that's it, man. Like, it's over. And, Ball, coming to that realization was like, hey, what he did is like, I can't live with myself, right? Like, yeah, I know it was a power trip or whatever. I got manipulated, but he's like, I still made those choices, right? And he's like, I can't, if this is what, what he said is, if this is what it's like to be a man, I can't live like this, right? Because I made some horrible choices, right? I almost killed my mom and a bunch of other people and stuff like that. 20,000 people I almost killed, including my family, because I was manipulated to think this, greater darkness. And, he basically just took her out. He's like, oh, let's go. It's like,
that was
let's need to go. It's like,
the next thing I wanted to talk about, Ball's choice that he or Val and Valentine's choice is like at the end, like, he couldn't live with what she had tricked him into doing, and he wasn't going to let her live either. Like,
it's a very short, quick redemption arc.
Yeah. He's like, well, let's go.
I mean, but was it redemption for him? Like, to me,
I think he, in his mind, he did it to take her out because she was the embodiment. She was the evil in the story.
So,
to me.
So here's my thing, and I will admit I'm a little colored by what's happened in my real life this last week. But to me, like, what he did at the end was as big a cowardice as anything he'd done the whole time. Like, he basically wasn't willing to, he wasn't willing to forgive himself, and he wasn't willing to live with what he had done and try to make amends. And so he used killing her, and he was angry at her. So he killed her and himself as an excuse, as a way out. That
he took another shortcut.
He took another shortcut. He gave up being a god, and you notice he's the only one that didn't say anything. He just said, "I'm not a god."
Yeah,
he didn't say anything else.
Yeah, everybody had their little moment where they kind of realized, like, you're right, I'm not a god, and he was just like, all right, I'm not a god. And he's like.
Yeah, like everyone else has a little box full of like thinking about why they went down that path, and he doesn't. He just says, "I'm not a god," and gives it up, and then he takes a shortcut out. And it, to me, like, it showed his weakness. That the whole time he portrayed that he was the strongest, and he was the weakest, and like
he was probably the strongest physically, but not mentally.
No.
No, I hear what you're saying. That makes sense.
Unruly, what do you think about that?
Well, it's like Todd said, Anarchy was the evil, right? And why was she the evil? Because she was weak.
Yeah.
That's where all evil springs from, in my opinion, is from weakness.
Oh, definitely.
And fear of something. Something that you can't usually even articulate clearly, but that you're not willing to face. But let's not be too hard on Ball. I mean, these are all kids. You know what I'm saying?
No, you're correct.
Kids are given to impulse, and they don't, it takes some of us a lot longer to outgrow that whole immortality myth we're born with, No.
Yep.
That
was one of the things, right? I mean, it was always children because they're the easiest to manipulate, right? I mean, they're the easiest to show them, this great, look at all this power and all this fame, and everybody's going to love you, and this is going to be, great. And it's easy for a kid to see that and be like, yes, I want that, right? And, it was definitely really easy for her to manipulate them when it came to that. So, of course, getting the children was the obvious choice. But, yeah, it's definitely harder for them to come to that realization that it's like, hey, it's not what I should be doing.
Well, and it goes back to like, and there's a great like this Pam when we're getting her backstory from her perspective, and her sister when the first one like burns themselves out by trying to be a god. She goes, "We must warn the others. This is not a gift. This is a death trap with golden walls. Who would think themselves a god? And she's like, who indeed? And she's like, basically, and then I realized if the song was one they already believed in, about themselves, anyone who didn't know better. So like, yeah, she manipulated them and told them what they needed to hear to think they were. And basically, like Laura said, because she made the flame beforehand, and it's part of why she figured it out. And then, like, then she comes and tells her she's a god. Well, like, of course she believed it to start with. Yeah. And, but it was also why she ultimately didn't, because she didn't want the, she realized she didn't actually want it. Anything else in the wrap up you guys want to talk about? Like, before we maybe talk a little bit about some of the side stuff, just for the heck of it, and the series as a whole. Now. Go ahead.
Also, part of Ball's decision, think about it. He had been around. He was one of the ones that had been around the longest, and he's been living for a while with this knowledge that in 2 years I'm done. You know what I'm saying? If you've ever had that mindset when you're young, where you're not positive you're going to be around next week or next month, not necessarily that that's what you want, but that it's a very real possibility, it really skews your thinking. It can take a long time to get over.
Yeah,
because he was the one that got resurrected a few times, and out of these children for this round, he was the first one again. So he was the first one of everybody. You know, he kind of knew, had his date marked off, like, yep, this is the day.
Well, yeah, he'd been planning on that. Basically, he was coming to the end anyway. Like, so I do think that was part of what his decision was. But I really think, though, his decision ultimately wasn't that he'd been prepared. It was that he was angry and he was scared and he couldn't forgive himself, and he took the easy way out. And you know, it was, you know, and he left everyone else to deal with the consequences. Like,
yeah, he definitely. I mean, it would have been interesting to see if he would have, you know, survived this, and, you know, see him 40 years later. If, given that time frame, would he have been able to forgive himself? Would he have been able to have a relationship, right? And stuff like that. Because again, you know, what they were saying is like, hey, you give up the shortcut to put in the work, right? And they've all done crappy things, right? I mean, they all killed a bunch of people. They all did.
Half of them in prison time.
Yeah, so they all did some stuff. Yeah, granted, he was around longer. He did more things, and, you know, obviously you could see that in his past. He murdered children and all this, you know, on the belief that he was doing the right thing or whatever. But again, it's one of those things where, like, you chose to say, you know what, I'm not going to deal with that. I know what I did, and I'm just going to, you know, be the hero, and I'm going to take her out. But again, like you said, you know, did he have to do that? No. There were people there that were willing to help him through this, right? You know, there was, you know, Inya and all the, you know, people, his ex-boyfriend stuff. There was like, hey, we can do this. Don't do that, right? You know, they already seen that inkling, like, oh my God, he's gonna do this, right? He chose not to. He's like, no. It's like, I can't. He's like, I'm not gonna be able to forgive myself, no matter how long I'm alive. So he's like, I'll just end it.
Yeah. So he's not the only character that sort of took that. Well, he took the other one traded his life for somebody else's. So what do we think about Baphomet? Cameron, and his choice to revive Dionysus and basically kill himself and join Morgan.
The Morgan,
yeah.
The classic Romeo and Juliet trope.
Yeah. Very much so. I mean, because and he even talked about, like, before he made that decision and revived everyone else, like, that they would do the Lady Hawk thing, just they'd keep bringing each other back. Yeah. Like, that they could just do that. They could never be together again, but they just keep bringing each other back. Yeah. Like,
they'll see the other one dead, and it's like, okay, come back. And it's like, oh shit, no, you come back. It's like, no, you come back. It's like, but what's the point of one of us being alive? The other one's gone. He's like, you know what? But I think they had such because they knew each other beforehand. right? Whereas everybody else didn't, you know, they kind of came together because of the powers or whatever, because of Anarchy kind of brought them together. Whereas these two, the Morgan and Cameron, they knew each other beforehand.
They were
and they had a toxic relationship to begin with, right? And then it just carried over to them having powers and having this toxic relationship, you know, and stuff like that. And you can even see it, you know, she beat the hell out of him and, you know, stuff like that. And, but there was love there, right? I mean, they did have that love to be, you know, in the beginning and stuff. But yeah, it was so toxic, but they were just like, you know what? We really shouldn't be together in life, but maybe in the afterlife, it'd be different, you know? So, maybe there was their philosophy because, right, she gave up herself for him, you know.
Well, after she killed him.
After she killed him, she's like, okay, I'll give myself up. And he's like, well, I was going to do the same thing, but he's like, what's the point? Because then she's going to come back and keep doing it, and neither one of us are going to be happy. So that's why he was like, you know what? I'll give it to you. You come back. You deserve it. I'll be gone, and I'll be with her in the afterlife. And, you know.
Anything else from this you guys want to talk about, or just whole series thoughts? Let's go there, like, because I feel like we've talked about most of the major things in this. My favorite things from the series overall is I thought it was really well done. I thought it was an interesting, different take on this kind of the gods and everything else. But I would have to say the overwhelming thing I liked about the series most was probably the art. Like, for me, like, I enjoyed the story a lot. I love the art. That's just for me. But what about you? We'll go with Todd this time. What overall impressions of the story?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, and as we're talking, it gets me to start to kind of reflect and think about the earlier volumes. And, you know, there are a lot of, like, I'm starting to think maybe I would like to read it again because there are a lot of kind of different spider webs that are woven throughout the 8 volumes that comprise really the main story. And, you know, I overall, I enjoyed it. I think the art's phenomenal. I think the writing is good. I really thought the writing was very good. I just, you know, I have a few things that I disagree with, maybe weren't done the best they could. But overall, I mean, it was a really good read. The art's phenomenal. If anybody likes stories about gods or mythology, I definitely recommend it.
I just love all these, like, almost all the A cover for every issue is like somebody's head, but I love these covers. Like, they're just, like, so amazing.
Just gives you such a good, like, kind of detailed look at the characters.
Well, and I mean, it gives you a look. To me, it's a lot of it. It's not just a close up. It tells like a little bit about them, like just by looking at some of them. And so, Unruly, what about you? I know you were the big fan coming into this. What are your after a reread? What are your overall thoughts about the series at this point?
Well, I'm like you. It was such a perfect melding of story and art. And, you know, I don't really know much about the technical processes of coloring. But
the colorist is amazing.
Good Lord. Whoever did this coloring and however they did it was perfect. Just absolutely.
Well, they tell you in the
it's one of the stories
in one of the stories in here, one of the comedy ones. They like just picked him up off the street. Can you?
His name's Matt. What's his name? Matt.
Wilson. The Wilson guy.
Matt Wilson.
Matt Wilson. Yeah.
And to me, it was it's all the characters, man. When you reread it, I really love them all. Sakhmet, I just love her craziness, man. She's just
crazy, totally, all right.
And any group, you know, in fiction, in real life, not so much, but in fiction, a big group like this, you got to have the crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's like the pinch of cinnamon in the freaking coffee.
Yeah. Well, I did like in volume, what was it, 8, the 5 things anybody who lives with
the soccer the cat one
is gonna know.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's interesting you say that too, right? Because, you know, Sakhmet was insane, right? She, you know, fully embraced this, you know, godhood and this So if there wasn't a piece of her head missing that, Minerva blew off, right, and she actually had a body to come back to, do you really think that she would have gave it up?
No, I don't think there's any way she gives it up.
I don't think she gives it up.
I think her, like, we got that with Lucifer, and like Lucifer being the one not wanting to, which makes perfect sense. But Laura was able to use her connection with her to turn. There's no way she gives it up. Well, and Laura talked about it with the ball. They're like, we need him on our side or he has to die. Because we can't end this without him. One way or the other. If he's alive, we're screwed if he doesn't join us.
Yeah, every god that was alive had to renounce, their godhood for this to work. Or you need to be taken out. And I think she would have had to be taken out. I don't think she was going to give it up.
No.
I do the overall story, the overall series. I think was excellent. Like you said, the artwork was phenomenal. I think one of the things that I like the most about it is it got you to essentially look at your own mortality, right? It got you thinking about, your choices in life and stuff like that. And how can you not only better yourself, but maybe the people around you and stuff like that? Because you can see where Laura's influence on a lot of people in this, in this story, it kind of brought them back, right? I mean, she got Lucifer and all these people that were kind of on the borderline of maybe not giving this up or something like that, and got them to say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to follow your plan and we're going to go with this, right? And ultimately, I think that's one of the things. And even at the end, when she says, your future is yours, right? It's yours to write, not anybody else's. I think that was one of the best things. Obviously, reading about the different gods and stuff like that is pretty cool too. I'm into like Greek mythology and all those things. So that was pretty cool. But the overall like message was like, hey, you know what? Ultimately, your life is yours, right? And you need to make the best of it and make the best choices that you possibly can. And I enjoyed that, right? I enjoyed that. It's like, hey, we are mortal, right? Not everybody's going to live forever and stuff like that. And, to make those choices and stuff like that, I think it was interesting to read. So, and again, I thought it was a really good series. The way they ended it, could you make better choices? Not better choices, but just a little different. But, it is what it is. And I think it was still well done. So like overall, definitely recommend it to anybody to read if they're looking to, read it. A very interesting series. Definitely check it out. So I definitely recommend it.
And I just have to say, like, I don't know, Gore must not do anything but read. Because he always has, like, you need to read this one and this one. He's always got, like, 4 other things. And it's like, you should read these too. And it's like, oh my gosh, how does he read so much? So, and he's usually right, but, but you should. Okay. Volume 8. What do you guys think about Volume 8? To me, I'll be honest, the funny stuff at the end was pretty good. The only one that to me that really mattered that I thought truly added something for me was the Stephanie Hans, the 1800 one. And that's only because I needed some explanation from where this thing came from that she was using to create the Great Darkness. Like, without this, it's like, what is this thing that Minerva's used? Like, that didn't make any sense without this. Where that came from. But like the rest of them, I was like, I don't know, these are fine, whatever. I don't know. They didn't really hook me on any of them. What did you guys think of the stuff in the 8th volume?
It was nice fleshing out a little bit some of the characters, and some of the situations were decent. But like we said earlier, they should have interspersed it or made it volume 9 and titled it Epilogue.
Or something.
Yeah, I think it was especially the placing of it, putting it at 8 and then coming out with 9. I feel like it was almost a distraction, right? It was meant to kind of maybe throw you off a little bit, to of potentially seeing what's coming. And it's like, oh, here, let's throw some little funny bits and some little things here and kind of throw you off a little bit, and then kind of jump back into the story. Again, the placing of it wasn't the best. Maybe not. Like you said, I think they could have sprinkled in, one or two stories, one or two of these little, tidbits in each volume, like throw it in at the end of each one. So it's like a little funny little clip, like, that's pretty funny. And you kind of move on. But I think the way they did it is like, we'll throw right here, kind of distract people, throw them off, kind of, okay, yeah, it's funny. And then kind of throw you back into it. You're like, oh, all right, I'm back into the craziness. So.
Yeah, I just think it was. I think it should have been like either intermixed or after, and probably just after to me. But yeah, and to me, really, I don't know. I didn't feel like they really added a lot to my enjoyment of the story. I just felt like the one was necessary because I didn't understand what the heck was going on with that person that created the darkness with the house. But to me, the fun ones at the end were. Some of those were pretty good. I mean, the little Scooby Gang one, and then the best was the Sockamet one.
Yeah,
that and Laura's phone, like the one about her phone. But
yeah,
but and then it did have one of the better covers. That
was funny. I do like the like design art that they did at the end or something like that. They did all like the little design things. Those are pretty cool.
There you go. Gordon's always got something going. So anything else you guys want before we wrap this up to talk about on this series? Any final thoughts?
I'm just glad y'all enjoyed it. It's always that's why if I've got trades, I'll loan the trades to a friend because I really don't mind not getting trades back. But when I buy the stuff in Omnibus, like, ain't no one getting my Omnis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hardcovers are different. This kind of stuff, you can find this.
Yeah.
You can find these. So, well, I will say, like, I did really enjoy it. Overall, I thought it was really good. They didn't, they took the little step on the landing. It wasn't a stick, but it was, but it was 9.8, on the landing, not not a 10, but it was, I thought it was well done. I really thought, I thought they did a really good job of setting up how to break the cycle, like with hints without giving it away. And then, like, I thought that was a really good progression in the story. I thought the characters were great. I love the art. The colorist, Matt Wilson, did a phenomenal job. Like, McElven's lines were great. Matt Wilson's color was fantastic. And yeah, so I enjoyed it. So unless you guys get anything else, I think we'll get out of here. We'll wrap this up.
How often do you talk about colorists?
Yeah.
Never.
Exactly.
You never give them the respect, and some of them do a fantastic job. It's just, but you never really think about them unless it just really. But this just jumps off the page, like because he has such range. Because there's so many scenes that they're in the underground, and they're in darkness, and then you get these crazy freaking panels when they're fighting the Valkyries, and you look at this crap, and it's just like, I'm gonna make myself like bigger for this one, but like, I mean,
yeah,
look at all the crazy colors, and yet he makes it work. The oranges and the pinks, and like, it's just, and then,
that whole neon deal.
Yeah, and then this, and then that's great.
Close-ups.
That's great line art, but that fire and just
it brings him alive.
Yeah. So
I definitely mean, like I said, the story was great and the series was was good. I mean, like I said, I definitely recommend it to anybody. But I always enjoy reading something different, right? It's not just a superhero story, which I definitely enjoy. We all do, but I do like reading something more grounded and, you know, not just, I'm not going to say based in reality and stuff like that, but it just gives you more that self, you know, you kind of like self-reflecting story.
Yeah.
But I definitely enjoy a different type of story. And this was definitely it. You know, if you want to break off from the traditional superhero stuff, this is definitely a really good read for that.
Hey, Ruben. Well, I think we're done. In theory, I got another one of these, the last one of season 1 on Thursday, but I may have to actually reschedule that. So, but we'll be talking Usagi. That may get recycled. This may end up being the last one of season 1, and I may end up having to schedule that after I start season 2, but that's okay. This has been a blast. I want to thank all three of you guys for joining me for this, and really joins me for like I want to be on that one, and I want to be on that one. He joins me for a bunch, but I really appreciate it that you guys come and hang out and talk stuff with me.
Sure.
So yeah, if you guys see something else I'm reading that you want to be a part of, let me know.
You know it.
So
I'm there.
I appreciate you having me, JP. And thank you to you guys too for hanging out and talking about Wicked and Divine. It's a lot of fun. I really do enjoy it, and it's great to hear other collectors and readers' thoughts and ideas.
yeah, there's two people in here right now, according to my little thing. So it's us and Gore, I think, and Ruben. So, but
honestly, I like. Okay, there's certain streams where I'm like, how many people are watching? Because there's a big, it's a
it's part of what you're doing.
But here, I feel like I'm just hanging out with three of my buddies and we're talking. And if people, I like seeing the comments, and Gore always has great pieces of information.
Yeah,
you're getting top notch info.
Yeah, I mean, I love that when the people are involved in these, but these are complete. The indie show is completely for me, and it's completely about hanging out and talking to you guys and Gore, because Gore is like in all of these. I feel like he's a member of every panel, even though I haven't got him on with me yet.
Yeah.
He'll be on season 2.
I need to get him on season 2. I need to. If he's down for something, I need to get him on for season 2. But so
he's got a great voice and great delivery.
I know.
You gotta check out some of his videos. He does deep dives on semi-obscure and obscure stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but yeah, this is all about me and having an opportunity to talk comics and reading new stuff and talking about it with people. And yeah, it's my own little book club, and I enjoy the heck out of it. And I appreciate you guys joining me. So, unless you guys got anything you want to pitch coming up, we'll get out of here. Todd, I'm sure you got an auction or something at some point, right?
Yeah, Saturday.
You got an auction coming up, don't you?
I took last Saturday off.
Did you really? I was not where. Well, yeah, I wasn't doing YouTube on this is the last week, so very much. So yeah, I didn't pay attention, but you actually gave yourself a Saturday off. That's nice.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So anything auction on Saturday? Anything else you guys got?
And then I have Teachers Lounge on Thursday.
Nice.
With Comics on the Mind.
Nice.
That'll be on my channel this week. We were on his channel last week.
Okay. Sweet.
So that's about it.
At some point next month, it'll be me, Loki, versus Sharon Sabretooth in the knockout.
Nice.
So let's not vote. Let's vote logically, people. We all know Loki can take Sabretooth. Just come and vote often for Loki.
So what we really need is for, like, I don't know. I think I could be bribed by you or Sharon. It just depends.
I could be bribed.
That's right. I could be bribed. So, Lois, my man, you haven't done anything for a while. So
I have not. I had a video in mind, and then I did it, and I didn't like it. So I'm going to redo it. And if you can see behind me, I have my TJ slab.
Slabs there, yeah.
So yeah, there's going to be a video on slabs. So stay tuned for that. So that'll be coming out soon, hopefully.
Awesome.
As for me, maybe we'll do Usagi on Thursday. Maybe I'll have to reschedule. I'll know tomorrow if I'm going to have to reschedule that or not. So if not, we're doing. Where's that? I already taken it. I think I took it in the other room. And so we'll be. Oh no, it's right here. I'm blind. It's right there. We'll be talking the very first volume of Usagi Yojimbo, the Ronin, which collects all the stuff in like Critters and Albedo and the Summer Special before his own Usagi #1. So all the stuff before that is what this is. It's going to be me, White Whale, Jimmy the Geek Aficionado, and Cthulhui, and it's going to join us.
Okay.
So plan is for Thursday. I may have to reschedule. We'll see. Hopefully not. And yeah, and then on my usual weekend stuff. And then Kamagories a week from last night. So we'll be back. So, all right, gang, we're going to get out of here. Thank you, Gore, for hanging out. Thank you, Ruben, for hopping in, and anybody else that's watching this. And thanks to the panel.
Sure. Thank you, everybody.
Take care, everybody.